Hello, hello, hello. It's Tuesday, and I have been filming actually all morning, so I'm really excited to show you some new things that are coming into the shop in the next few weeks. And I'm getting ready to film a new writing class that's going to come up in a couple months. So, anyways, I found this stack of plant stain papers that I had designed, drawn on, painted, whatever, during my days at Disney. So I had a lot of samples that I would put out in front of my shop. And what happened over time, of course, was the sun, because sun is the only thing that is going to hurt the plant stain papers. And so I would have some of these samples out, and then once they kind of got sun bleached, I would take them and I would paint on them or draw on them or do something like that. So I found some of those, and then the other things I found were actually pages that were done not on sun-bleached pages, but in journals, and they were actually pieces that I had done, or artwork that I had done, writing that I had done in journals that I left out as samples as well. And when you have hundreds of people fingering through your journals in a day, every day for 3 months, 5 months, however long I was there at one time. These journals, they are phenomenal. They're heirloom pieces. They can last for generations. But when you've got hundreds of people fingering through, and they're guests, of course, wonderful guests at Disney, but, they're not really gentle. So some of these pages were ones that I pulled out of some of my journals, and I haven't seen them for a while. I just pulled out this stack. I've been going through some of my old bins and tubs and all that were still in storage, and let's see what we've got. Okay, so this is one of my favorites. This was actually one that I had submitted to a magazine, and it got published, and this was about, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, and it was either like Somerset Studio or one of those. I can't remember the name of the magazine. Anyways, I have it somewhere. I haven't found that storage thing yet. So it says in focus, and of course all behind her is the plant stain paper, and then I want to say I used chalk pastels. And so this was like it's almost like a vision board that I created to show kind of what I was doing. And at that point, and again, I think it was 7 years ago, at that point I had just closed my art studio in North Carolina. We moved back to Florida, and I was looking at plant stain papers for my solo focus at that time. I wasn't doing pottery. I didn't have my kiln set up, anything like that. So plant stain papers were going to be my focus, my livelihood. It's what I did for my art shows. So you can see I was really having this this kind of focus. It says, success is focusing the full power of all you are on what you have a burning desire to achieve. And that's William Peterson. Sorry about that. Well, what you focus on expands. And then I went on to journal. And again, all of this is kind of intuitively done with the plant stains that are in the background. That's what guided me to creating this. And there's the back of that. So she was there. I just kind of pulled her out. Focus, breathe, focus, breathe, focus, breathe. That's my mantra was, I guess, at that time. Be a super achiever, not an overachiever. I had done this really long study and actually taught a class in my studio in North Carolina about the difference between being an overachiever and the difference between a superachiever. And it was actually a writing class that I taught. And I really kind of honed in on that. And it said, but I am on a hamster wheel. Okay, so look, I have big goals, but I am on a hamster wheel going round and round. Now I need to get off and climb. So this was this little, I love that still, and I need to keep that out. I'm going to probably want to keep all of this out instead of putting it back in a bin. So these were pages that came out of the journals from Disney that I was talking about, and they used to be very, very, very bright, and part of a stitch you can kind of see the holes and people just, going through them. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the stories of what some people did. Just one little story just to give you an idea. We had a soccer team from Argentina come through, and I think this was one of my first residencies at Epcot. And so the soccer team from Argentina came in, and I had put out a sample book for people to sign. I had always done that at all my art shows, and I was like, oh, this is great. We'll do this at Epcot. We'll get to know where people are from all over the world, blah, blah, blah. And it was great. Except I had one of these Argentine soccer players put his foot up on the page so that one of the other members could trace his foot around on the page with the pen, and then he signed that, which I guess in theory he's a soccer player. That was pretty good, but it wasn't one of my plant stain papers. I remember his big foot on there, and it kind of ripped the book apart because he was trying to get steady, and he had his foot on it, and he was bouncing on the one foot and the other one. I don't know. It was crazy. Anyways, back to this. Set your life on fire, seek those who fan your flames. That's a Rumi quote. That's one of my favorites. This one came out of a small classic that I love. Suddenly, I realized that if I stepped out of my body, I would break into blossom. And this is by James Wright from A Blessing. And I use this quote quite often. It's one of the things that really is very meaningful to me. And then I have this thing about finding out words in different languages for one word. So, for example, this being smile, and I have the ice cream cone to be there as this kind of representation of smile, and this is how you say smile in all of those languages. And just as a backstory on that, in our house that we ended up selling in North Carolina, our farmhouse where we had our horses and everything, in one of the bathrooms, it was the hallway bathroom, I had written smile on the wall above the mirror, and then down each side was how you say smile in about 14 different languages. And so that's where this came from. So the idea of smile. Oh, and then I open it up, and it's beautiful with Y-O-U in there. And again, these little ferns became the ears. That's a blueberry right there. Isn't that wild? These are eucalyptus that were the earrings. I mean, this was just a perfect bunny that developed out of the plant stains. It's one of my favorites. That's why it's in this file. Sweet. So that was part of a journal. I guess that was my sample. I want to say this used to be a cover, but I don't remember. It says, a girl must be two things, classy and fabulous, and that is the infamous Coco Chanel. Again, one of my favorites. This looked like a heart, if you can see those. I have not drawn on this at all. That is done by the plant stains, and there's a blueberry right there, and these are ferns that are coming up the side. Just amazing. And you can see the stitches. See, it had ripped right there. So out of the many hundreds that had gone into this book, that one had ripped. So yeah, 2016, I had written about all the kids, I guess, keeping up to date with what the kids were doing. And again, these are my samples I put out at Disney, so I wasn't going to put anything too personal. I didn't want people to read. So, but I did want them to see that you could write right on top of the pages. And again, this was sitting out in the sun for months. There's another one. This was when I was invited to do the Epcot Food and Wine Festival, which was a huge deal. I had been there for Flower and Garden Festival, but very few are asked to do Food and Wine Festival, and I was just very grateful that I did that, and that was 2016. But that was a really tough year because we were actually on property, I believe, over 250 days that year. So after that, I learned to pace myself because I had to have original art for all of those days. There's a little dog there. I don't believe this page actually came next, but on the corner I just saw this little dog popping out. Not all who wander are lost. J.R.R. Tolkien. That's a hydrangea leaf, a blueberry. These are pretty rose leaves, and there's the cupcakes, vodka, and Hakuna Matata. So I had to, that's why there's a lot of food in there, actually. That was from, that's why there's cupcakes, or the ice cream that I did, and those. Because for Food and Wine Festival, everything has to have some sort of tie back to food or to wine. So this was a sample that I had done to show that I could personalize the cover of journals, which I actually don't do anymore. My hand is not steady enough to do that for commissioned pieces. I of course write on mine. I write on my covers. I write inside my own writing. I love it, but as far as doing it for commissioned, don't do it. I did some writing for my son and daughter-in-law's wedding, and that was beautiful, but very challenging for me with a little bit of the beginning of arthritis that I'm feeling. Okay, this was a page that I remember dearly. So I'm always finding hidden animals and everything, and there's an elephant right there. There's the turtle. There was a cow. There's another, like a profile of an elephant, a butterfly, a fish up there. Doesn't make any sense, no rhyme or reason, but they're all there, so. Ha! Adorable. I love it. That was fun. Oh, and this I had always planned on painting out, and then I did it in pencil, and I never went back and painted it out because I really liked it in pencil. I don't know if you can actually see it, but it's a bird cage, and it's on a hook. And the bird cage has a heart. There's another heart over here. And the door is actually open, if you can see in the door there, because I don't believe in being caged. So that was the symbolism of that. Follow your art. Oh, this is an accordion book. Okay, so I don't really do stamps very much. I'm not a crazy stamper. I feel like it takes away from the natural hand that people have, and that makes things look too perfect for hand done. So my students in my classes know that I kind of have a pet peeve with people depending on stamps. But for some reason in this class, I think this was a sample of a class that I was teaching or something, I'm not quite sure. I went ahead and did it, and then here she is peeking out of these flowers and leaves, and then I filled this with oh yeah, that's what this was. This is a journal of some of the shows I did. Jury art shows. This is it must have been the year before I started Disney. This must have been 2014 or 2015. This was 2015, and because I remember having to decline these shows because I was starting Disney the next year. So. And it was cold, Florida. This was Lake Wales Arts Festival, which is only about 40 minutes from our house here in Central Florida. And it was freezing, and it rained torrential downpours almost the entire time. And our booth flooded, and the whole festival was called off early on that Saturday. And then I think we were only able to do 2 hours on Sunday. It was amazing, though, because it was actually, I remember it, that was still my best show that year. So I had a tremendous love being shown to me at that show. This was Greenfest that we did later that year in Indian Rocks Beach, my favorite beach around here. And Renee did henna in our booth. So it was, Greenfest was not a juried art show. It was more of a eco-friendly type event, and so I had my plant stain papers, but Renee had her own booth and she did henna, so it was absolutely wonderful. And I was just drawing on there. Beauty and the Beach was a juried art show also at Indian Rocks Beach. That was the month after, There's Chris not being happy that I was snapping his picture, and he was helping me at the show. It's really hard to do a show by myself. I always need somebody to help go in, go out, and talk with people when I'm busy talking to others, because obviously I talk a lot. This was another festival that we did, Festival of the Sun. Renee had her own artwork there. These were huge charcoals. If you've been to my house, you've seen a couple of her huge charcoals. These were 2 there. And she sold some, and then when she started selling, when people were buying them, I then upped the price and told her I upped the price so much that people would not buy them because I didn't want to sell them. So I told her that I would pay her the original price that she had on them, and that I was increasing these just to show that they were, because you don't want to ever put anything not for sale at a show like this. You're not allowed. So yeah, that was a little trick, but she was 15 and she did these incredible charcoals, and I just couldn't let them go. So sorry. Yep. So that was a little bird that this was a mixed media. It's plant stain papers, and I sold that, I remember. Okay, so let's see what's in here. Anything? If I have to figure out a note. Oh, there we go. Another elephant. This is one of my favorite quotes by Alan Alda. The creative is the place where no one else has ever been. You have to leave the city of your comfort and go into the wilderness of your intuition. What you'll discover will be wonderful. What you'll discover will be yourself. Alan Alda. And I'm going to actually use that for one of my writing classes. Okay, I love that. So here's another drawing. I don't know if you can see all of the little things that I've drawn out. This was like an Indian chief over here with feathers, and a sun and a moon and a butterfly and a big flower right there, some faces, and a big puffer fish. So it shows I would make sure that I would stand there and write in my books or draw whatever I did. This is there's a continuation of this somewhere, and it kind of goes down. So when I find it, you know what, I'll just put that to the side. Unless it's in here. Let me see if it's this one. No, this is something different. So I really have always enjoyed this one too. This was a cover of a book that I had that was one of the samples. And my little artist girl in there, she's wearing a beret. You can see her. And then when you open this, you'll see a profile. It's a double profile. And I always look at this as because this one was more distinct, and this maybe was the mirror reflection. So you can see her face was right there. It says, be willing to dream and imagine yourself becoming all that you wish to be. Dr. Wayne Dyer. This was again in 2015. And oh yeah, this is something, I've done this several times as an art journaling class over the last 30 years that I've taught art journaling. And the idea is that you've got a snow globe of some sort, and there's some kind of scene inside the snow globe, and then you have a fairy on the outside kind of making those wishes. And so that just happened to work with this layout, with these designs, and her face was right there. Again, there's a mirrored image of it, and then the little boat that I put in as if it was a snow globe. Okay, here's the rest of this somehow. Moon. Oh, I think I started to write it again. Okay, so it goes like this, and it moon of the finest silver wane, take with you bad luck and bane as you fade into the night. Bring new hope, lock in sight. Oh, bring new hope back in sight. If I could just read my handwriting. So those went together. But it was a accordion journal, and that's why that's upside down. So you had to flip it up over, see that part, and then inside was this drawing. Art enters you as nourishment. Okay, and I think I was copying that. This is that poem just so that I had that again on a separate piece of paper. So, okay. I got very distracted and wine was involved. I'm not quite sure why I did this little pamphlet, but this was actually a mixed media piece that I sold at Food and Wine Festival. It was rather large. I know this is a little smaller picture, but I want to say it was like 36 by, I don't know, 20, something like that. But it was pretty large. And this was done, it says in vino veritas, and that means in wine we trust. And I don't know if you can see it, but the painting on here was done with wine, and that was Epcot wine. So that was something I was doing in front of people. Wine actually turns very brown. It doesn't matter what color wine that you use. The tannins in the wine make it all turn brown, and it doesn't usually last for a very long time. Now this was from 2016, so we're talking 5 years, but it's been closed up in this book. So there we go. Okay. Oh yes. Okay. Tea, a hug, and a mug. I know who I was this morning, but I've changed a few times since then. That's an Alice in Wonderland quote from Lewis Carroll. And so this was just another sample that I had out. I tried really hard to complement all of the plant staining, but also be intuitive with my art at the same time that I wanted to show people. This is, again, and one of my favorite things, if not now, then when. And I just love the way that plant stain paper gives designs. That's the inside there, and even on the back of these petals you can see plant staining. You can see plant staining through her hair, obviously her face. I love the inspiration that it gives me to do more intuitiveness. So that was the other side of this when it was a book. There are my little sweet things, and they were real little then. That was the first time we lived in Lakeland or in Florida. So this, I want to say, was probably 2003 was when that was done. So beautiful stains. In my early days, I got a lot of yellows. It took me several years to develop the colors that I get now. And what a ride. Whew, I love it. Okay. I think that was just a sample thing that I had. And then I had this great idea. The people at Disney had asked me to do something that was a little bit more interactive. And I had this great idea, which was actually not such a great idea because of a gazillion people that come by your booth at any one time. I was going to have children thumbprint onto a page, and then I would make their thumbprints into some kind of design. And so this was one of my samples, and I took their thumbprint and a fingerprint and made it into a mermaid. This was in 2016 also. Honestly, that didn't last long. It was too hectic to talk to guests, to give them information about the journals and the books, and then also to do that with the art, and it just did not work. Here was another example. A little owl with a thumbprint. Love who you are. That was a cute little thing. So essentially they would be choosing a piece of paper, a paper sheet, and buying that, and then I would do their thumbprint and put a little quote or something on there. Again, I think we might have done that for just a couple days, and then I was like, this is too stressful. I can't do this. So on some of them I had done some drawings, I had done some drawings in my sketchbook and then scanned them and printed them onto original plant stain paper. So the scans would have been the same or repeated, but the paper was always different. And I got to doing that for Food and Wine Festival, especially because we were just so busy, and all of my art is one of a kind and original, and I had to figure out a way to do something that was not as complicated all the time, like stitching all these books and other things. So I came up with doing some scans and printing them, and then I also used these scans as covers to some journals, and that made it fit into the theme more as well. And so there's another one. I love the eucalyptus in the back of this one. I just think this is a great little sketch. So, and I sketch in charcoal and pencil, and that's what is relayed in the scan. The secret ingredient is always love. That was just kind of another little thing I did while I was demoing. And another ice cream cone. You can tell what I love. Ice cream cones, although I do vegan ice cream, and I usually do it in a bowl, but I do love ice cream cones. And then vegan cupcakes. Yum. This was a scan. Also, there's actually 3 women that I had done and would scan the drawings onto original paper. And then I actually matted these and sold them like that. And so those did really well, actually. I didn't paint all of them. Most of them were just black and whites. So it just showed the plant staining in the background. This is just, I think this was one of the, I don't know what this was, actually. Wine is sunlight held together by water. Galileo Galilei. I don't remember why I did this. It's cute though, huh? It's probably just a sample that I was doing when I was at my shop in Epcot. This is one of the other women. It was, she's in front of a coffee shop. I wasn't crazy about how this one printed. I remember not liking this. This is a hydrangea leaf in the background. And so when I do the scans and run the papers through the printer, it's just very serendipitous as far as where those stains are going to end up. Some worked out great and some not so great. I remember not being happy with this one and then taking pen and color to it to see if it would improve, and no, it did not improve. And then I want to say this was another cover. Set your life on fire, seek those who fan your flames. Rumi, you heard me say that again. And I started using some collage techniques on some of the journals. And I was really just at a point where I had been creating so many pieces, and I honestly was getting a little bored because it was all plant stained and they were all original and they were gorgeous and all those kinds of things. But as an artist, I was never wanting to be a manufacturer, and I was getting to a point where I kind of felt that way. So I would always think of some way that I could just take a break for a little bit of what I normally did and then make some adjustments. And this was one of those, to do some collage. And it was always plant stained paper. Like this is printed on plant stained paper, which is mounted on top of plant stained paper. And then I just put a little bit of mulberry paper with it. But I always tried to stay true to my own work. And another cupcake. You could tell I did a lot of cupcakes. I must have painted those a lot while I was there. So anyways, so now you've seen a little bit about what I have done in my books. And again, this is all, oh my gosh, 6-7 years ago. I've evolved just like everybody evolves. A lot of these things, they're part of my history, and I see a hand on the cover now here. A hand and an arm and a face. So a lot of, just like everybody else, artists evolve, and I look at some of these and I was like, what world was I thinking? I mean, those cupcakes, I wouldn't sit there right now and do those cupcakes, honestly. I would eat cupcakes, but if I was in front of guests at Disney, I would not be painting cupcakes right now. But I learned so much, and the reason why I'm going into this is because I read a comment recently that somebody wanted to know more about my Disney experience. And so hopefully over a few different videos and stories and some of the writing classes that I'm teaching, Disney is probably going to filter in. It was a huge part of my life for about 5 years, over 5 years. And I'm so grateful to them. And I ended up, for those of you that don't know, I ended up having to decline my last several invitations to show at Disney because of health reasons. And then, and of course, a couple of them because of COVID. And my last one, the last time I showed in person there was the end of 2019, I believe. And then I had brain surgery, actually. So I had a lot of issues, health issues that I had to conquer. But anyways, they are so kind to me, and the door is open. They have left the door open for me. But with the way the world is right now and dealing with my new health issue of osteoporosis, I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm just very grateful for that experience. But anyways, more stories will come out, I'm sure, as I go through things. And I'm just so grateful for being a part of that magical place for so long, and for them to entrust in me to hold my space at Epcot, at Disney's Animal Kingdom, at several resorts that are around on property, and at Disney Springs. And so lots of stories and lots of time. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little stroll of what I found, and I'm sure there'll be more that I can find at some point when I start digging through some other tubs. Remember that you can always find more about Plant Stained Papers, about me, and my classes that I teach, all that wonderful stuff at RochelleEason.com. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful and magical day.